Mental Health Monday is sponsored by Focus Treatment Centers. Find hope and recovery at focustreatmentcenters.com.
We are so very glad to be able to begin to highlight on Mondays mental health here in Chattanooga and the surrounding Tennessee Valley area. As I'm sure you well know, mental health is a topic that everyone seems to be talking about these days, from young to old, and I think it's a good thing that the conversations are there to exist. And the truth is, there are many, many layers to mental health and ways that you can deal with it. But for our kickoff focus this morning on this Monday, we are talking with Focus Treatment Centers, who's kindly bringing us the conversation each and every week. Courtney Stoddard is a familiar face of ours here on 3+U. She is a certified eating disorder dietitian there at Focus, and it's a timely conversation because this week, Courtney, is Eating Disorder Awareness Week. So what a perfect time for us to kick off this topic.
That's right. Thanks, Julie. Thanks for having me.
I guess one thing that a lot of people don't realize until they're in the throes of it, one is the prevalence of eating disorders, and the other is that it is a mental it is a mental disorder. It is not something where you just say to somebody, well, here, eat a salad.
That's right. It's a psychological disorder, and it's one that has the second highest mortality rate of any psychological disorder. Definitely not a choice, and not just picky eating or dieting.
Okay, but when you say it is not a choice, that does not mean that it is not something you can learn to conquer, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, so when someone enters into treatment or starts their recovery journey, they absolutely can recover from that psychological disorder, and it takes support. It takes a team and learning tools and skills and nutrition education, and absolutely can be, recovered from.
When there at Focus, I know that y'all have, in some ways, the pandemic has helped you in a crazy kind of way because the whole world went virtual, and so y'all were able to do that as well. And for a lot of people struggling, anonymity is a great thing. So being able to talk to your specialists in a virtual way has been very comforting.
Yeah, it has had its pros. Our intensive outpatient program, as well as our outpatient nutrition counseling, has remained virtual since the start of the pandemic. And through that, we've been able to reach a larger population because we can see anyone in Tennessee or Georgia. So it's not just limited to local folks. And then, yeah, sometimes people are more comfortable just logging on as opposed to coming in person.
So can we get into a few numbers a little bit? You shared some with me. I was a bit surprised. Almost 29 million Americans at some point in their lives will have a diagnosed eating disorder. That does not mean that more people don't have one. It just goes undiagnosed, correct?
That's right. Yeah, that's it. That's an estimate that at some point in their lives, that many people will experience an eating disorder. That's not to say that many people are going to seek help, and that there's not a lot more out there who are struggling without, saying anything.
So is it often, Courtney, something that the person struggling with the disorder tries to hide from family and friends so that early intervention can be a difficult thing to accomplish because by the time people are recognizing it, maybe the pattern has set in?
Yeah, I would say that's a common pattern in the beginning to want to hide that, because a lot of times eating disorders are about controlling these things that seem like they're in one's control, such as food or weight. And so it's hard for people in early recovery to give up that control. So yeah, they're going to want to keep it, kind of secret.
Does that mean then that we have some false ideas? You use the word control. I think most of us probably think about an eating disorder affecting middle and high school girls who, quote, just want to be skinny. But is it more than that? Can it be like a life event that creates a trigger, if you will, for somebody where this is the way to hold on to control? Is it complicated, Courtney?
It is complicated because there's usually multiple contributing factors. There doesn't have to be like one certain traumatic event, although that can happen and trigger an eating disorder as a way to cope with that. There's also a genetic component, and then just lots of other contributing factors. And even a diet itself can trigger the onset of an eating disorder.
So I would think when people find their way into your program and the individual person struggling is talking to your trained therapist and getting this help, what good does it do them, though, if then they enter the great big world and their family and friends don't know the right things to say or not say? So can Focus extend and help that support network too?
Yes, the family work is actually a really important part of treatment. In the virtual program, we offer a monthly family day, and it's, again, virtual, and it's presentations and eating disorders education for any family members or other support people of that patient who are willing to learn. And then in our higher levels of care, such as the residential program, the family sessions are weekly, and that is with the therapist, the family member, and the patient.
Do people ever make some mistakes in trying to help? Did they do the wrong thing? If you know that your niece is struggling and you're having a family get together, do you say, hush, hush, don't bring desserts to this one? Or, do people, in an effort to try to do the right thing, end up making more of a situation out of something than is necessary?
Yes, of course. And I think when someone is really trying, mistakes are going to happen. It's okay. Like, as a family member, don't put that much pressure on yourself. And we really encourage our clients to speak up about what would be helpful for them, as opposed to just expecting family members to know.
I think, I mentioned the pandemic and the ability now to talk to people virtually. Isn't this one of the areas, though, in the mental health conversation in this country that has seen a real spike since COVID hit?
Yes, research is showing, which we knew, but that eating disorders have increased during the COVID-19 pandemic. And just one example is the National Eating Disorders Association. Actually, their helpline experienced 107% increase in contacts since the start of the pandemic.
I know I've got to let you run, but y'all have been very kind to give us this emphasis weekly for a while on mental health, because there are so many different layers to it. Do you think it is true what I said, that at least we're having conversations? Even if we stumble our way through them, at least we're talking about it?
Yes, I'm so glad to be here raising awareness on National Eating Disorder Awareness Week, because it's so important to talk about and to normalize that this is something that a lot of people deal with, and help is available, and early intervention is really key to recovery.
You say that. Can you define a little bit what early intervention looks like? Like, how early is early?
It is a vague term, but pretty much, at the earliest signs of someone struggling, it's important for them to get help, just because we know that eating disorders are progressive disease, and so they only will continue to get worse and then harder to treat and recover from.
Well, we're very lucky to have you in our own backyard. So should people be watching for anything specific that you're doing this week, or just you're encouraging people to talk if the conversation arises?
Yeah, we're encouraging people to talk. We're doing some things with some local colleges. So that's more, of a specific population. The UTC Athletics Department, Southern University students. And so we're really going out to college campuses this year.
You know what, that's a throwback. When I was at the University of Georgia, I lived in my sorority house, and we would every year have somebody come and talk about these issues. I remember we would sit on a piece of paper and we would draw around our legs. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So that you could trace to see, and different people would trace it in different ways. But out of 60 some odd girls at one point, there were 42 who struggled with an eating disorder. So sadly, it is a very needy part of the population for this conversation.
That's true. Yeah, the body tracings, that's powerful.
Well, Courtney, thanks for your time, and the great news is that there is hope out there. That's the primary thing that we want to remind people of, and we're lucky to have them, like I said, right here on Shallowford Road in Chattanooga. 308-2560 is the phone number. You can find out more by going to their website, focustreatmentcenters.com, but if you heard her correctly, they're there to help you as you struggle, but also the family and friends who you love so, to show them what to do to support you in your journey. Thanks again, Courtney.
Thank you so much.